All right, so let's do a little bit of work um, with some draw and modify commands. So when we began, so you guys have gone through, if you watched the other two videos, we talked about AutoCAD setup, we talked about different zoom properties, and we talked about panning and everything else. So if you need to go back and look through those again, go ahead and do so. Up here, one of the things I said a couple of times so far is I will not draw on the zero layer, okay? And if you look right here, I am on a dimension layer. So I'm gonna drop down here. Yes, I'm not on the zero layer, but now we're at the point where everything we're gonna put on a page that's a part of an actual drawing will be known as an object line. So you have that in your template. I click object lines and I'm off to start. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on one of these rectangles, and this is just going to be your drawing area, okay? For this unit that you guys are doing, you're doodling, you're just making shapes, you're experimenting with shapes, you're modifying shapes. So in this case, if you want to say something, if you want to tell me that if you want to draw a circle and tell me it is a diameter of 2, that's great, okay? And if you want to draw a line from this circle and you say you want this line to be 3, great, okay? Getting used to putting in dimensions will only help you, okay? But for what we're doing right now, it's not critical. The only reason I gave you these 8.5 by 11 boxes is so you wouldn't be able to draw something that was because you zoomed out so far, and you kind of couldn't have any gauge of what you were drawing. Sometimes people will draw a line and it's 9,742,000 inches long. So hopefully this will help a little bit. And so what my recommendation is as you're experimenting with stuff, because you're going to have like 4 logos that you're going to turn in. If you like something that you did here, but it's not perfect, go ahead and do it over here then. Use what you did here to kind of inform corrections you might make here, and so on and so on. Obviously, you can delete anything you want to, but I was going to say, just keep everything you draw, at least for these first few days, inside of a sheet of paper, and that should help you. Okay, so again, draw and modify tools. They're in the top left of your ribbon right here. Draw tools are line, polyline, circle, arc, rectangle. If we click the drop down under rectangle, we also have a polygon, and we also have an ellipse. I don't use ellipses too much, but they are handy from time to time. And then this tool, don't worry about it too much right now. This is one that if I show people right off the bat, kids love it, and they want to use it for everything, and it's really not something we use a ton. It's called Hatch, okay? Now over on this other side, we have move, copy, stretch. I never use stretch, so I won't even teach that one. Rotate, mirror, scale, trim. Your trim looks like a backslash. Fillet, we will use this. Array, we don't use it a ton, but we use it. Erase, explode, and offset, okay? So it's probably not a bad idea to, if you're doing this on your own speed, if you've missed something that we've done in class, to jot a note down. What is the tool? What does it do? We'll get into these annotation tools a little bit later, okay? So let's start with this. Again, remember the command window, okay? Anything that I type in on any word, any letter I type in on the screen is going to become a command also. So if I type in line and I hit enter or spacebar, it's giving me a line, okay? If I type in join, and I hit enter or spacebar, it's going to come up, okay? The other thing AutoCAD got smart about is, let's say for line, for instance, if I type in the letter L, it's going to generate a pop-up window, and it's kind of like a kid that wants to help get his dad tools. Like, hey, go get me, you're gonna be my helper today and get me some tools. And the kid just throws random tools in the toolbox and brings them back and says, Dad, are you going to use the pliers? Are you going to use the hammer? Are you going to use the wrench? They could be all the wrong tools, but typically one of them will be right. Okay, so that's kind of like what this is. So it's every L tool and more. Some that you will never use, but the first one is very popular. You'll use line. Okay. A third way you can get to these things is type the letter L, like for line, and just hit the space bar, and that's the hotkey connection. I think hotkeys are the way to go. I can get pretty much everywhere through here without the hotkey, and that works great too. Okay. Once you have drawn something initially, all of your modified tools will come up via a right click option, or at least most of them. Okay. So let's talk about how a line works. I click line. Again, back and forth conversation. It says specify first point. All that simply means is where do I want it to be? Okay. Let's say I want the first point to be here, or let's say I wanted it to be in a specific place. I could want it at this midpoint. So I make a click. I only made a single click, okay? And unlike a lot of programs, maybe like a paint program or something, some of those programs make you hold the button down while you're moving to the next place because it says right here, specify next point. I'm not holding anything down. All I did was click one time, okay? And I specified next point, and I'm there. Now you might be done. You might say, okay, I'm done. I don't want this line anymore. Great. So what do? You got a couple options. You can hit escape, or what I always do is I just right click and I go enter. So if I draw a line, it's going to do one thing. What's my first point? Click my first point. What's my second point? Right there. What's my next point? It'll keep going and going and going. Okay. There was a movie a few years ago. Harold and Kumar go to White Castle, and they were at the speaker, and the ladies kept saying and then because like every time they would say, oh, we'd want like 2 more French fries, and she'd go and then, and they said no more and then, no more and then. So don't get stuck on that, right? If you don't want any more, where's your next point? Okay, here. No, I don't want another next point. Right click, enter. That's it. All right. Something about lines. So I didn't have to draw them touching these yellow boxes. I could click again, and I could draw a line right here. Now, if you look down here on this part of your screen, you see an X and a Y. Okay, remember you are drawing flat on the floor in AutoCAD. Okay, X is to your right and to your left. Y is not up and down, it is away from you or towards you. Remember, because you're drawing on the floor. Okay, so you can see these green dashed lines, and you get one about here, one about there, one about there, and one about there. Okay. Those are that's your polar setting that you set up in AutoCAD, okay, or in Object Snaps. And what that does is it locks you once it gets you into that green. Okay, it locks you into a line parallel with that x-axis or parallel with that y-axis. Okay, so if I do this, I can just type in, okay, like I want a line that's 5 inches long. All right, perfect. Okay. There's one other tool that does that, and if you're doing a lot of stuff that is right and left-ish, if you look down here at the bottom where this toolbar is, it says Model, and then you got a few other tabs. You see this one that looks like a clock or some kind of gauge. To the left of it, you see one that looks like a right angle. So if I click that one, this is called Ortho. And if I draw a line now with Ortho, and I move right, and I try to go at an angle, it won't. It can only go left, right, forward, or backward. Okay. I don't like to use Ortho because it's very restricting. But if I needed to do something really quick and just draw like I don't know, something that was completely right angles, like if I had to go over 3, down 1, over 2, down 2, over 5. And another thing you can do, if you're ever doing a shape like this, it's a closed object, you can hit letter C in the space bar, and it will automatically close it for you. So that made sure that I couldn't just by accident, right? I'm going to go back and toggle that back down here to the one that looks like the little clock, that's polar. But that made sure that by accident I couldn't come a little bit, off at an angle. Okay, so that was Ortho. All right. So there's lines. Again, L space is the hotkey for it. Let's talk about polylines. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a line. I did this in class, and I said, okay, let me use a line for here. Okay, so I'm going to draw my line with this one. And what I'm going to do is just so you guys can remember which one was which, I'm going to draw an L right there. Okay. I'm going to draw a polyline right next to it. Same exact shape, but this one is with a polyline. Okay. In this case, I'm going to draw a P right here. So now you remember which one was which. Okay. Again, remember when I'm drawing stuff, like if I start here and I'm drawing a line and I'm trying to get it to somewhere I can't see, I can either zoom while that command is active, or I can push the mouse roller down and hold it, or use the pan button, or type P space, right? So the line is still running, but now P space is also, okay? So pan is. So what's the difference? They look identical, all right? They're not identical. And the reason is if I hover over this one, you can see that only this leg lights up. So to further illustrate that, if I click it and click the erase button, it goes away. If I hover over this triangle, the entire triangle lights up. So if I were to click this one and click the erase button, the entire thing goes away. So that's the difference between line and polyline, okay? Polyline makes things stay connected. Line keeps them unconnected. The points are still touching, but it's just regarded as three different objects. This is regarded as one different object from a code standpoint, okay? Now, this takes us into our first modify commands, okay? So let's say that I looked at this and I wasn't happy with this leg on this side of my triangle. I wanted to improve this one. Or maybe I wanted to turn this into a house, right? Maybe like what I wanted was down here. I'm going to go ahead and make this a house or something, all right? So, but in order to do that, I want to get rid of this bottom one, okay? I like this triangle, but I want to get rid of the bottom one. Piece of cake. What you're going to do is, and remember any of these commands, so now we're going over to a modify command. So you've learned two over here, line and then polyline. We're coming over here, we're going to learn two modify commands, okay? Erase, I think you kind of probably already have in the bag, but these things can work either way. So just as an example, like if I want to erase something, I can click erase, click the thing I want to erase, and what's the next step? It's highlighted, so how do I get to the next option? I right click, okay? At the same time, I can click the thing I want to erase, and I can also click erase, okay? So again, you can do command, then select, or select, then command. Either one works, okay? So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and select the thing I want to change. And the thing I want to do, remember, I'm trying to isolate this bottom piece so I can remove it. So under the pencil eraser, I have something called explode. It looks like a cube that's all broken apart. So I click it. And it looks like nothing happened. Well, that's because I selected it first. But guess what? It did happen. Because now, when I hover over this, you can see that that is its own piece. I can erase it. How did I erase it? In that case, you didn't see me come up to here. I just hit letter E, spacebar, or you can hit the delete button. Okay. So now I have made this exploded. Okay. In other words, this is three individual parts. This is now three individual parts. Okay. Well, what could we do if we wanted to unexplode something? What if we wanted to put it back together and you said, I want this to stay put all together? It's not something that you do a ton in 2D, but in 3D you have to do it all the time because you have to join 3D objects to make them solid. So there's no icon for this. I don't think there's even a drop down one. There isn't. And you know what? I kind of don't care because it's so easy to remember. It's join is the tool that we're going to use. So if I type in letter J, it's the first tool that pops up. Okay. I just always select everything I want to stick together to join something, and I hit letter J, I hit spacebar. Now, if you look, this all went back together. Okay. So again, this one was together because I used a polyline to make it, but I broke it apart. This one was individual, but now it's back together. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and copy these. Okay. Oh, let's talk about copy while I'm doing those. Copy is right up here, and it's on the kind of middle left of your modifier. Molly, stop. Come here. Come here. Shh. My dog gets excited about copying. So, anyhow, when you copy something, there's a lot of ways you can do it. The quickest way, I think, is to select the object and then right click and find the copy. But you can also do this if you wanted to. So you can click this copy button. It's going to ask you what object you'd like to copy. So let's say I want to copy all of this. So I'm selecting from bottom right. So I just clicked once. I'm moving up to top left. Read the command window. So nothing's happening. Okay, now. So I have to right click to get Alexa, so to speak, to ask me the next question. Now it says specify base point or displacement. A base point is where you're going to do something from. It's where you're going to do something or where you're going to do something from. So in this case, I say, well, I want to pick it up right here. So I click this, and now it says specify second point. It just wants to know where am I going to drop it. So I can drop it here, here. I can really do it anywhere, okay? One thing about that is people, when they're starting out, they just want to fly through commands, and they go copy, specify base point, and they pick something up out here. Well, that's fine. What if I wanted the tip of that triangle to touch the tip of that rectangle? So picking it up here where the crosshairs are in outer space is really of no use, okay? I do it sometimes where I'm just like, I don't think I ever copy anything from some in the middle of nowhere space. I always grab a specific spot. Now, since I've got polar on right here, you see when that green line, that green dashed line came into place, that means that that copy went straight down the y-axis, okay? So now, offset. We're going to talk about the offset tool. So we've covered, now we've covered copy, we've covered erase, we've covered explode, we've covered join, and I think we'll kind of leave it at the end of this with offset and trim. These will be the last two we do for this video, okay? You have a little magnet looking button right here. If you're using 2018, it would look more kind of, to me, it always looked like a cloud in 2018, but anyhow, this is the button. It's still in the same position. It's the bottom right in the Modify tab. Letter O will also prompt offset as its first option. Okay, so the other thing is O spacebar. Letter O spacebar takes you right to offset. Very easy command to use. Offset makes parallel copies of an object at a distance that you predetermine to that object, okay? So if I decided I wanted a line right here, and I wanted the same exact line, same exact length, 1 inch away on this side, I could go to offset. The first thing it asks me for is a distance, okay? People want to start clicking right away. Now you got to tell it how far you want it to go. So I type in 1, enter. When it says now select object, this is what I want to offset. So I select it. This one I didn't have to right click. It just automatically says, okay, now tell me what side. Look at the command window. It says which side. If I want to offset it on this side, okay? Or I could have clicked it and I could put it on this side, okay? So that's offset. Very, very handy tool. We use it constantly, lots and lots and lots. So let's look at that offset tool and say, well, wait a minute, let's offset this triangle. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and offset this. So I click here. And in this case, I'm going to say something like 0.2, I think. Okay, so I typed in 0.2. Again, just to go back through that. Offset always remembers. So the next time you use it, see, I had already started to use it, and it says, do I want it to be 0.2? It remembers the last thing, so you always have to tell it. This time I'll use 0.15. You always have to tell it the distance you're offsetting something. So I click here, and I can come out here, or I can go in there. I'm going to make this one bigger. No, I'll make it smaller. All right. And sometimes it will. Sometimes you gotta move your hand way away from it to make sure it doesn't grab something else. Okay. So this one, I'm grabbing and I'm clicking inside. I'm grabbing and clicking inside. Okay. So the joining and exploding, you can tell one thing was made this advantageous to me, and that's that joining it, okay, made this one entity, and it made that copy exactly the same, but it didn't bother anything in here, right? It didn't make all this crisscrossing in here, okay? The one that was unjoined, the one that we had exploded, now has all of this nonsense. And it's like, if we want this to look like this, we have to get rid of it, okay? So that's offset. Again, it's pretty simple. Pick anything you want to draw, right? Go ahead and tell it you want to offset. Give it a distance. Type in, let's say 0.5. Click here. Click there, right? You just made a target, okay? Or a donut. Okay, so this one, last thing we'll do, and then I'll cut this video and we'll stop because there's a lot of information on it, I think, even though it's only over just a couple of things. But keep in mind that we've covered, I don't know, 40% of 95% of the things that we use 95% of the time. So anyhow, down here, so it's like, well, I want to clean this up. I want these corners to look like these corners. Okay, so how do I do that? Well, I say, okay, I want to erase that. And I click erase, and I say, okay, I'm going to come down here and I want to get rid of this little piece. Well, that didn't work, right? Because erase is non-selective. If a line is from point A to point B, every point of that line is the line, okay? And erase can't distinguish the difference, okay? So you have a tool to the left of the erase button called trim. And your trim button, if you're using 2018, looks like this. I think your trim button looks like that. Okay, it's like a forward slash or a backslash or something else. Okay, mine looks like scissors. Or if you hit TR spacebar, that's also going to pull up trim. That's the fastest way to do it, and you use trim constantly. Okay, you'll use it all the time. Not because of mistakes, because it makes drawing faster sometimes to draw something bigger and get rid of what you don't need. Okay. So somebody told me this, and it used to be trim is very confusing if you try to follow the directions right now because it says select object. So I say, okay, I want to trim this, and I click it, and I right click, and nothing happened. Okay, and then it says, wait, select the cutting edge or something, and I right click, whatever. Nothing is happening for me in a way that's making it work. So what the real trick was is you hit trim. You would, if I wanted to get rid of this little piece here, you would select where you wanted to cut it, which is there. You would right click, and then you would select that. When I was in college, I was doing that because that was the way I was taught. And I had a friend of mine that said, stop doing that. He said, I got a better way. And I said, yeah, sure, right, whatever. He said, go ahead and pull up trim. So I said, TR space. And he said, don't do anything else. And he literally had to shout at me before I even clicked anything. So he said, hit TR space. Don't do anything else. Don't touch anything. Now, hit the right click button one time. Okay. Now go ahead and pick whatever you want to trim. And it will just keep trimming and keep trimming and keep trimming the whole time. Okay. So that is all you got to do. All right. And again, people want to get real click happy. Trim. They want to go ahead and I'm clicking things, right? Nothing's working. Forget it. Just hit TR spacebar or choose the icon. Right click somewhere in outer space. Click this, click this, click this, click this, and you're done. All right. So recap. And you can see I've left all my goofy stuff in here. None of this is technical drawing. This is just getting me acquainted with technical drawing, with using the tools. So we've covered line, and we've covered polyline, and we've covered copy, and we've covered what else? Trim and erase and explode and offset. It may not, you know what? One last thing, because why not do it right now and just get rid of it? If I drew an object, let's say I drew this line, okay? Or you know what? Let's do this instead. Move is right here, okay? So if I wanted to move this triangle from this point to touch this triangle, piece of cake, select move, select the object, okay? So I can individually click around the triangle, or I can just draw a box around it, click the whole thing, right click, it says specify base point. So I pick right here, which is where I want to move it from. Now it says specify second point. That's where I want to move it to, okay? Move can also work in a different way, that I can move something at a selective, like from a specific standpoint. So I could click move, and I could click this, and I could say specify base point. Click right here. Let's say I want to move it along the y-axis, 1 inch. So I just type in 1. You can see it moved it 1 inch away. Okay. So it was worthwhile just to put move in there because it's so easy to use, and it works just the same as copy. It's that same sequence, right? Select object you want to move, specify base point, specify displacement. When you see that word displacement, it just means how far or how much, okay? So that is it. Again, so now we've covered move, copy, trim, erase, explode, join, which is the opposite of explode, offset, polyline, and line. So on another video here, we can come back and we can attack arc and circle. We can attack rectangle. I'll show you what an ellipse is, and then we'll go ahead and we'll get into mirror, maybe scaling, and then we're going to make rotation its own lesson. All right.